Hello and welcome to episode 325 of the video show. We're live across Facebook, LinkedIn and YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video as well. And if you've got any comments or questions throughout the episode, that will be absolutely fantastic. And if you've got any questions for future episodes, post them in the comments below as well. And I'll do my very best to answer. So in this episode, we're going to be going through how to approach guests for your podcast or show. And this is something that I've done a lot of. So I've had to do it for my own show, not necessarily a video show, but my other show I do called live streaming. And then a show that I produce for Coconut Creatives called The Mob Show, where we've got such esteemed guests on, such as Hide the Pain Harold, famous meme, Emma Kenny from TV's This Morning, and then Mark Goulston, who I'm a big fan of. He's a psychologist, and he's written some really interesting books as well. So those are some of, like, I think in my mind, like the top guests that we've got onto the show. And I was going to talk about how you sort of break down that process and how you invite guests on. So whether it's you're just starting up or whether you've been going for a little while, hopefully I can break that down in as much detail as I possibly can. This is something I kind of touched on in the last episode, but I don't think I really did it justice as much as I wanted to, because I kind of I mentioned it, so it would be good to really delve deep into the ins and outs of it. So I've written down my questions, I've prepared them so I can put them on screen. So the first question is, how do you approach potential guests? So like the physical way of me actually doing it, I usually email them. So I send them an email, I send them maybe a message on LinkedIn, maybe a video through LinkedIn, and I really sort of just explain like what the show's about and if they'd be interested first of all. And if they're interested, then usually I just send them like a link where we could have a chat. I'll explain more about that later and how that works. But also what I would also do is to just to give them some idea of what the show is about. So some people from that, they will either get back to me and it will go further, and some people will just ignore it, and that's fine. Some people will say, like, find out a little bit more and then say no, and that's fine as well. So you just move on to the next one. How do you work out who to approach? So firstly, I think you need to think about what your subject matter is. So whether you're talking about video, whether you're talking about another form of marketing, what is your subject about in that episode? And then look at maybe people that you know that are really really know what they're talking about in that subject, or look on LinkedIn or YouTube for those kind of people. And a good place that I found is TED Talks. So these kind of people have they're already talking about their subject and they're already comfortable sort of talking in front of camera. And then, have they got something that they want to promote? Do they have a book? Do they have a video that series is already going out? Do they have an offer coming out, or do they have a podcast that they want to plug into another audience as well? And that's a good way of getting people on your show, is if maybe you go on their show and then you can swap around a little bit. What if you don't know the potential guest? Good question. So, like a lot of the guests that we've got on for the Mob Show are people that we don't know. So the way we just do that is just send them like a link to the website, which has got loads of information about the show and what the show's about. We try and explain what the show's about, and then we'll just give them first of all, we just ask them if they'd like to find out more and if they'd want to be a guest on the show. Some people say yes straight away. Some people will ask a few questions first, and then some people will say no, or just ignore you, and that's fine. So I think if you're looking for someone and you don't know them, just introduce yourself. Don't go in sort of really heavy-footed and try and push them around a bit too much. Just sort of go in gently, and then just try and sort of give them some idea about what the show's about. What if that potential guest is really successful? So this is a problem obviously everybody has. If the guest is really successful, they are probably a little bit harder to contact. They probably got like a gatekeeper or a PA, someone that's going to sort of guard them a little bit from every every request, because these people are probably getting many, like tens or maybe even hundreds of requests a day to go on people's podcasts or go onto people's shows. So they need a little bit of protection from it. And then the way that I've gone about it, or we've gone about it with the mob show in particular, is trying to paint a picture of what the show's about and why this episode would be important. If the potential guest is really successful, they will probably ask for a fee or some money or what's in it for them. So if you've got a big audience and it's an audience they want to plug into, that's probably going to be quite a good idea for them. If you're going to pay them a bit of money to go on the show, that's probably going to be a good idea for them. And I think if you don't have either of those, another good way of doing it is by really trying to sort of like get to the heart of why they would want to go on the show. So is it a cause that they really care about, and they love talking about, or something that they really they're really interested in and really want to help out with? I think that could sort of get you in the door a little bit as well. What if they say no? That's something that happens all the time. It's quite normal. Mostly they won't say no, they'll just ignore you. So it's not a big deal. You just move on to the next person. And so what I do for each show is have a list of 3 potential guests for each subject. So if the first person says no, go on to the second person says no, go on to the third person says no, come up with some new people who could come on it. So that way, I think it's worth, I'll go on to this later, but it's worthwhile planning ahead when you're going to shoot these and really sort of put some time into finding the guests and getting them lined up. What if I've only just started and have no following? That's a really good question, because a lot of people are going to be in that same sort of boat. What if they've just got started and have no following? It's hard. So I'd probably start with just sort of getting some guests on with people that you know, just to get up and running. Record these in advance. So get a number done in advance. So with the mob show, what we did was for the first 2 months before we went out, we recorded shows every Friday. So it would be maybe one interview on a Friday, maybe 2 or 3. I think the most we did was 3. And for about 2 months, we just recorded interviews every Friday. And then we launched sort of after the first month of interviews, and then kept recording into the second month. And then, so we started in September and then recorded into October, and then broadcast every other week from October, November, December. And now only in January and February, we're needing to record again, because we know in March we're going to be running out of interviews. So we just recorded a new one today. And then we've got some new ones lined up as well, where we're going to, in January and February, really start building up that list, that sort of library of interviews again. So I think that's a good way of doing it, is by getting people recording loads in advance. So maybe on a Friday, maybe on a whatever day of the week you feel like, and then just sort of stack them up and build up a library of interviews. So that way you've got no excuse. So if you do miss a week, then you've still got like 10 other interviews to go. That other library of stuff to come in. How do you construct an email to a potential guest? Really good question again. So if you know them, it's really, really easy, because you just say hi. And then I'm putting together this new show. It's about this, and this. I wondered if you want to be a guest. And then what you do, invite them to like a 15-minute call where you just brief them about what the show's about, what you're going to be talking about, how that's going to go, how long that's going to last, what they need to do in terms of recording it, and then also check their connection as well. So if they're sort of dipping in and out, try and get them to improve their connection again. Maybe run through the process of what it's going to be like, how they're going to record it their end, and then how they're going to send you that on their end. And then also think about what their background's going to be as well. So we've got these lights in the background here. Other people may be sat in like their conservatory, other people might be sat in their office, other people might be sat in their bedroom with the bed in the background. But just sort of brief them on what you think would be a good look. How do you organize your calendar in terms of scheduling? So I sort of touched on this a minute ago, but I think a really good way of doing it is by, like I said, if you're going to be doing this all the time, regularly, ongoing, then have like 2 months where you're going to be recording every Friday, like 1 or 2 interviews every Friday. And then after the first month, start putting those videos out. And then a few months later, start adding to the library again. If you're only going to be doing like a limited series, so with my live streaming show, I only do 6 episodes, then have a break. So December I recorded 3 of them, and then January and February I recorded 3 more episodes, interviews, and then they'll be going out as part of a live stream. So I don't really need to worry too much because I know I only need 6. I've already got 3 in the bag, and I've got the other 3 people lined up. So it's quite easy to do that. And then just make sure you've got some in advance if you are interviewing people, to like in the future. You need to keep having that library of content. How do you prepare them for a recording? So have that 15-minute call with them beforehand. So if you're recording on the Friday, have a 15-minute chat with them over Zoom on the Tuesday, and just get them ready for the show, what to expect on the show. Should you have guests on a live show? So this is a really good question. I think I like to pre-record my guests because then I can edit it down into something that's more manageable, and I can put all the good bits in the live show in the show that goes out live, or the show that goes out pre-recorded, and then I'll have like another video where it's like the full episode. It's maybe like an hour long or something like that, but then it'll be like a 20-minute segment in the actual episode. So it's up to you. You can have guests on the live show, but I think there's a lot that can go wrong with that, and then if it doesn't go so well, or there's like big long pauses, you are live, so it puts you under a bit more pressure. So I think it's worth maybe pre-recording stuff and then playing it as part of a live video. So that's all my questions. Thank you for everyone for getting involved. If you're watching this later on, then feel free to ask me a question and I'll be very happy to answer it. And then if you've got any questions or got any ideas for future shows as well, feel free to put them in the comments. And don't forget, you can catch up with all the other episodes that you may have missed. Oh, wrong button. There we go. Don't forget, you can catch up with all the other episodes of this, the video show, and live streaming as well on my website, redbookproductions.co.uk. So if you've got any questions or for future episodes, put them in the comments below and I'll be very happy to answer them. That's it for now. That's it for this week. I'll see you next time in episode 326. Have a good weekend. Bye.